From the Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Zahra Syed. Our top story tonight. South Africa has recalled all of its diplomats stationed in Israel for consultations. The decision comes amid growing concerns about the ongoing violence in the Palestinian territories. Khumbudzo Shivheni, a minister in the president's office, conveyed the government's decision to call back all diplomatic staff based in Tel Aviv. The move is a clear signal of South Africa's deep concern over the continued loss of innocent lives in the Palestinian territories. Foreign Minister Naledi Pandor says his country is extremely concerned at the continued killing of children and civilians in the Palestinian territories. She says Israel's response has evolved into a form of collective punishment. So far, Türkiye, Jordan, Bolivia, Honduras, Colombia, Chile, and Bahrain have called their diplomats from Israel in response to the ongoing violence. Jordanian Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi expressed his concerns about the Israeli government's approach to peace negotiations. Safadi notes the Israeli government has displayed no interest in pursuing peace. He cited a disturbing remark made by an Israeli heritage minister, Amichai Eliyahu, last Sunday about the possibility of dropping a nuclear bomb on Gaza. In a recent incident at Stanford University, Arab Muslim student Abdul Wahab Omira was struck by a car in what authorities are investigating as a hate crime. Omira, who is recovering in the hospital, released a statement from his bedside emphasizing the importance of spreading love, kindness, and compassion. He also described the assailant and said the driver had expressed hostility towards Muslims before. Omira was walking to class when he was hit by a black Toyota 4Runner. Preliminary investigations have confirmed it was a hate crime. Stanford University has faced criticism for the timing of their alerts and response to the incident. Omira expressed disappointment in their handling. Stanford's president and provost condemned the incident. He has drawn attention to the need to address Islamophobia and hatred in communities, particularly in the wake of the recent Middle East conflict. Muslim and Arab groups across the country have reported increased incidents of vandalism, threats, and harassment. 2 Muslim Americans, including a 6-year-old boy, have been murdered since the Israeli invasion of Gaza. Omira hopes by sharing his story it will inspire empathy, change, and a call to action to promote a society where love prevails over hate. In the latest incident to rock Minneapolis, investigators are probing yet another fire at a local mosque. Faith leaders are calling for a meticulous examination of the motives behind the destruction of 3 garages at the Mercy Mosque. It is believed to be an act of arson. The fire occurred last Wednesday, resulting in more than $100,000 in damages. Authorities are working to determine the cause of the recent blaze. The Minnesota chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations urged the police to conduct a comprehensive investigation. Leaders want the police to determine whether the mosque was targeted deliberately, considering previous attacks and rising community tensions. This incident marks the 7th case of vandalism or arson at Muslim places of worship in the state this year. This is not the first time Mercy Mosque has faced such an ordeal. In April, a fire was set in its hallway, necessitating the evacuation of a daycare and numerous worshippers. This occurred just a day after another mosque fire. A Minneapolis man has since been charged in connection with those incidents. Shortly after them, a fire at St. Paul's Tawheed Islamic Center resulted in damages exceeding $250,000. Another individual has been charged in connection with the arson at the center. The United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees, or UNRWA, says some 1.5 million of Gaza's 2.2 million residents have been displaced since October 7th. Nearly half of them are taking shelter in about 150 local United Nations facilities. UNRWA said on X that Gaza is experiencing a communication blackout. Around that time, news emerged that Israel had again cut Gaza off from communications. The UNRWA adds that 48 of its facilities have been damaged in various parts of Gaza since October 7th. The agency has not been able to get through to the majority of its team on the ground. It notes that residents of Gaza have become completely isolated from their loved ones and the rest of the world. Earlier, the Palestinian Telecommunications and Information Technology Ministry, along with the Palestinian telecommunications company, said Israel had cut off all forms of communication services to Gaza. Meta Platforms, formerly known as Facebook, has suspended prominent pro-Palestinian news account Eye on Palestine after citing security concerns. This has affected its Instagram accounts as well, which have more than 6 million followers. Backup account Eye on Palestine 2, as well as its Facebook and Threads accounts, have also reportedly been deleted. The news account Eye on Palestine has also vanished from X and is listed as no longer in existence. The account has been documenting Israeli activities and violations in the occupied West Bank and Gaza. It has played a crucial role in disseminating news about the Israeli bombardment of the region. The channel has also been one of the few sources of information during internet and electricity blackouts imposed by Israel. Meta spokesperson Andy Stone says the company's security team had detected signs of a potential hacking attempt, prompting security concerns and the decision to block the account. He claims the accounts were not disabled because of their content. The suspension has provoked strong criticism from online activists and media professionals who accuse social media platforms of censoring pro-Palestinian content. Last week, Instagram issued an apology for adding the term terrorist to some Palestinian user profiles. The company claims it was an accident. Israel is under scrutiny as allegations of an attempted mass expulsion in Gaza have emerged amid the ongoing conflict. According to the New York Times, Israel has quietly asked for international assistance to move hundreds of thousands of civilians from Gaza to Egypt. This was presented as a humanitarian initiative to protect civilians during the conflict. However, the proposal was rejected by the Palestinians and key allies, such as the United States and the United Kingdom, who fear it could lead to permanent displacement. Leading Israeli politicians, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, have heightened fears of a second Nakba, a reference to the mass expulsion of Arabs from Palestine in 1947 and 1948. Netanyahu was accused of having explicitly called for genocide in a recent speech. At least 2 different Israeli plans have been circulated to permanently expel the Palestinians from Gaza to Egypt. One of these plans, reported by Israeli business newspaper Calculist, was drawn up by Israel's intelligence minister Gila Gamliel. Another report was written by Amir Whiteman, chairman of the liberal faction of Netanyahu's Likud party. That was published by the Israeli thinking tank, Misgav Institute. Israeli minister faces criticism over his remarks of dropping nuclear bomb on Gaza. Details come after the break. Stay tuned and we'll be right back. Welcome back. In related news, Israeli Heritage Minister Amichai Eliyahu has stared strong criticism after suggesting the possibility of dropping a nuclear bomb on Gaza. Eliyahu, a member of the far-right Otzma Yehudit party, openly discussed this option during a radio interview. He also objected to allowing humanitarian aid into Gaza. As well, Eliyahu said the Palestinian population should leave for places like Ireland or deserts, leaving Gaza to find its own solutions. He went on to declare anyone displaying a Palestinian or Hamas flag should not be allowed to live on earth. Opposition leader Yair Lapid condemned Eliyahu's remarks as shocking and irresponsible, emphasizing the dangers posed by extremists within the government. Internationally, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Qatar also joined in condemning his statements. They denounced the idea of using a bomb on besieged Gaza as one of Israel's options. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu responded to the controversy by announcing Eliyahu's suspension. Dozens of Palestinians gathered in the West Bank city of Ramallah to protest the visit of United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken. They demanded the Palestinian authorities cease talks with him. Demonstrators condemned the U.S. role in the Israeli-Palestine conflict and accused the Biden administration of complicity in the violence. Protesters, including Bassam al-Salhi, Secretary General of the Palestinian People's Party, labeled Blinken a war criminal. They called for Palestinian unity and emphasized that Hamas is an integral part of the community. Father Abdullah Julio of Ramallah's Malkite Greek Catholic monastery expressed solidarity with Gaza and urged Western countries to help end the conflict. In Ramallah, Blinken met with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. Ahead of the visit, Blinken opposed a ceasefire, claiming it would benefit Hamas. On Saturday, Blinken met with the foreign ministers of Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Jordan. He also met with the Palestine Liberation Organization's Executive Committee Secretary General Hussein al-Sheikh in the Jordanian capital, Amman. Lebanon is seeking United Nations action against Israel for using phosphorus shells on more than 1,000 fertile acres of agricultural and forest land in southern Lebanon, which engulfed it in flames. Environment Minister Nasser Yassin says Lebanon is set to file a formal complaint with the United Nations regarding Israel's strategy to turn the fertile lands barren. He says the shells ignited more than 100 fires, ravaging extensive forested areas of environmental significance, agricultural lands, and tens of thousands of olive trees. Lebanon aims to present a documented complaint to the UN. Agricultural Minister Abbas al-Hajj Hassan says at least 40,000 olive trees have been destroyed because of Israeli attacks in southern Lebanon. The Israeli-Lebanese border has witnessed sporadic exchanges of fire between the Israeli army and Hezbollah and Palestinian factions since October 8th. The escalation in hostilities is seen as the most deadly since the full-scale war between Hezbollah and Israel in 2006. Israeli bombings are leaving pregnant women vulnerable to premature births and miscarriages in Gaza. Pregnant women are facing a shortage of beds, doctors, and proper pre- and postnatal care. They are also facing difficulty reaching hospitals safely due to the conflict. Abdul Hakim Shihata is an obstetrician and gynecologist. He confirms that the ongoing Israeli aggression has led to a significant number of premature births and miscarriages amongst women in Gaza. Hospitals like Al-Shifa Medical Complex are struggling to cope with the influx of injured people as a result of the war and Israeli airstrikes. Palestinian Minister of Health Mai al-Qaila warned of a potential humanitarian catastrophe as electricity generators are shutting down due to the fuel shortages at Al-Shifa. The Israeli army's targeting of hospitals in Gaza, including Al-Shifa, Al-Quds, Indonesian, and the power generator of Al-Wafa, has worsened the crisis. The conflict has continued to escalate, with significant casualties amongst Palestinians, particularly children and women, as well as Israelis. Israeli jets targeted multiple locations in Gaza, resulting in the killing of 200 people overnight, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. At least 15 people were killed in Khan Yunis, southern Gaza, and one in Tel Zatar in the north. The Israeli army reports carrying out 450 airstrikes since the previous night. In central Gaza, Israeli jets struck 3 residential buildings, killing at least 45 people. The only specialized mental health center in Gaza was also destroyed in these attacks. The airstrikes hit the 3rd floor of a pediatric hospital in Gaza City, where children with cancer are treated. Israeli airstrikes on several hospitals in Gaza City resulted in the deaths of 8 Palestinians, according to the health ministry. Among them, 4 were killed at the Al-Rantisi Pediatric Hospital and 4 more at Gaza's Eye Hospital. Videos shared by Palestinian activist Saleh al-Jafarawi on Instagram depict intense shelling in various areas of Gaza overnight. In the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem, Israeli forces killed 2 Palestinians Monday morning. The United Nations revealed 88 of its staff members have been killed in Gaza, marking the highest number of UN fatalities ever recorded in a single conflict. 18 United Nations and other humanitarian organizations have issued a joint statement calling for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire. Jordan says it has parachuted urgent medical aid to the Jordanian field hospital in Gaza. Israeli attacks so far have killed 9,922 Palestinians in Gaza and the occupied West Bank since October 7th. More than 1,400 people were killed in Hamas's attack on Israel. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with his Turkish counterpart, Hakan Fidan. While no joint statement was issued, official sources say they discussed key issues, including the Gaza conflict and a prisoner exchange between Hamas and Israel. The United States is urging Türkiye to pressure Hamas for captive releases. However, Türkiye insists on a mutual release of captives by both sides. The Turkish side also called for an unconditional ceasefire with international monitoring, with Ankara as a guarantor. Blinken referred to a humanitarian pause, but Türkiye found this insufficient. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan chose to visit a remote region in the northeast of the country and did not meet with Blinken. CIA Director Bill Burns is also touring the region, meeting leaders and counterparts. Protesters gathered in front of the Turkish Foreign Ministry, accusing the United States of complicity in Palestinian civilian deaths. On Sunday, Turkish police used tear gas and water cannons to disperse pro-Palestinian protesters at Incirlik Air Base in southern Turkey. The Pentagon announced it was deploying a submarine to the Middle East, adding to the U.S. military presence in the region. The United Nations' humanitarian agency has issued a dire warning about the deteriorating situation in Sudans Darfur region. The UN's Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reports renewed clashes between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. The UN's Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reports renewed clashes between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. In South Darfur's Nyala, at least 17 people were killed, 35 injured, and 17,500 displaced in the past week. OCHA spokesperson Jens Lark emphasized the suffering of Darfurians, particularly women, in this ongoing conflict. The crisis extends beyond Darfur, with more than 5.7 million people displaced in Sudan and more than half of the population requiring humanitarian assistance. OCHA estimates since April 15th, around 9,000 people have been killed, 4.6 million newly displaced in Sudan, and more than 1 million are refugees in neighboring countries. The UN Refugee Agency reports an unstoppable migration from Sudan into South Sudan, with more than 10,000 arrivals recently, a 15% increase from the previous week. The UN human rights officials revealed disturbing details about the kidnapping and sexual assault of women and girls by people linked to the Rapid Support Forces in Darfur. These victims are allegedly held in inhumane conditions, forcibly married, and held for ransom. Liz Throssell, human rights spokesperson, said more than 20 cases have been reported, but the actual number could be higher. At least 105 people have suffered sexual violence since hostilities began April 15th, with the majority of incidents attributed to the RSF. That's all from our Toronto studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.